Welcome to AW360 Live at Advertising Week New York. I'm BJ Smith. I have with me Bill Day from JW Player. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You've been in the video industry for a while. I believe you told me earlier it's been 10 years.
Yes, almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years.
Yes.
So the question is, how much has video evolved over these past 10 years?
Yeah, in some way it's really interesting. What attracted me to video initially was the fact that it was a lot like television. And so in a way, video and television have just sort of merged, and there's a comfort level that suggests that, it's just us watching the same sorts of shows on different devices. The flip side is really video started in 2006. That's when bandwidth started to support video on the internet. That's when YouTube was founded, things like that. The consumption of video just skyrocketed.
Right.
In a way that even people who are bullish about video years and years ago, I think would have a hard time saying we could really envision how much video has been consumed across how many different devices, how much money is going into programming and content, and the opportunity with respect to tools and capabilities people have to take advantage of digital video.
One of the things that you talk about people being bullish on it. I remember probably around 2000 or so, I worked for an ISP, dial-up, and the guys around there were talking about, it's not going to be long before we're using cable and we'll be watching videos on our computers. And I'm like, that's insane. That doesn't even make any sense. I couldn't even wrap my head around how that would be possible.
Yeah. How about that? And now you've got sort of broadband over the air, right?
I've got it in my pocket,
and
right?
You've got it in your pocket and things like that. And look, I think the technology piece of it, to some extent, with respect to distribution, I mean, maybe it was hard to imagine, but people saw it coming, right? I think the way that it spawned new businesses, when you think about where Facebook's gone or where YouTube's gone, and it's not just the programming that comes from the traditional television networks, but all the new sources of programming and capabilities that have arisen because of the sort of ability to distribute video that way. That's when things get, in some ways, like super exciting,
right?
And obviously, and in other ways, they get complicated, and that sort of frames where we are today.
So, how are we as an industry handling that shift to more digital video?
Well, largely through technology, I think, and I think that's one of the big themes you see now at things like Ad Week is technology is required. I mean, it's not just, it would be so much simpler if it was just the same programming, watched the same way, piped through different pipes.
Right.
But the world's changed, as I said, right? It's a much more fragmented environment now. You used to have, even 10 years ago, you could think back to roadblock television shows, and buyers could buy those shows and pretty much satisfy reaching the audience they wanted to in the way they wanted through television. And so the video change has really changed all that. The world is much more fragmented. There are zillions and zillions of shows. There are all kinds of places that ads can run. Some of those places are incredibly effective. Some of those places are incredibly brand risky. And technology really is working to solve those problems.
So compared to traditional TV, how big is digital video?
Digital video, I think, realistically represents about 10% of traditional TV from an hour standpoint, and probably a little less than that from a spend standpoint. In some ways, consumption right now is outstripping spend. That's typically true. New media spend takes a while to build up, but that's changing very, very rapidly. And so I think the expectation quickly that digital video, first of all, digital as a category, including search, including display, is just crossing larger than television this year.
Wow.
So that's a big shift. And video is the fastest growing large-scale format within digital. At this point, search is still large, but search is growing much smaller. Video is growing and growing and growing. So I think the expectation is that in the next couple of years, that video, digital video, may become about a quarter to a third of TV spend. And I think that frames the environment. The environment isn't one way. So many people say, oh, television going away. Television's not going away.
Right.
But what's happening is television is becoming a device. among other devices like your phone or your computer that you consume video on. And no longer can a buyer think about TV as being the primary device, and I buy TV first and then I figure out all the rest with the crumbs of the dollars that I don't spend. They start to, I talk to more and more buyers who are planning video, digital video and television in concert,
right,
and buying in concert. And so I think in some ways that's the story here 10 years in, is that digital video is for real. And if you just connect the dots, and very quickly you see how large it's going to be.
Yeah. I'm watching just the patterns, the habits of users. Sorry to our friends in the cable business who are here, but we cut out cable television in my house about 5 years ago or so.
So you're way ahead of the curve, by the way, if it's 5 years ago.
Yeah. So we had an early Roku device, one of the first ones that was out, and have been.
They should have given you some shares, some pre-IPO shares, in
return
for your early loyalty.
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we were using the same email marketing service at the time, and I was trying to see if we could work out some sort of a deal. But now I'm curious how much of this is generational, because. Like I mentioned earlier that I teach in college. I have at least one student, that if he's there before I am, he's waiting outside the door of the classroom with his cell phone in hand watching videos. I open the door immediately. Now I work in a lab, so we have Mac computers all over the lab, so everybody's got their own. He sits down, YouTube pulls up, right up until the point that I'm ready to start the lecture. So and obviously that's generational for him. So is the millennials and the Gen Zs, are they going to be making a huge impact on the?
I think they already are. I mean, the reality is that anybody under 30 is predominantly consuming video off a digital device of some type or some sort of service. But what's interesting to me is, even if you look at cohorts in the 50, 60-year-old, so TV is still the predominant source of video for them, but 25% of their consumption is going to Netflix, Roku. They're consuming content in a different way, and that has profound impact. And again, the world isn't fair. The world isn't equitable from that side. But advertisers tend to look at people between 18 and 35, depending on your product, maybe up into the 40s, as the prime target market. Why? Because those people, they believe, haven't really formed their brand loyalty, and so they're the ones that they want to really capture and talk to. And obviously think about the story you just told. Those are the people who are absolutely tipped already and moving over to the new devices. And as he said, it has a huge impact in terms of cable TV or network ratings. It has huge impact in terms of how dollars are transacted with respect to TV buying. And I think it's really led to programmatic buying in video. So even a couple years ago, there's a real debate. Is programmatic video going to happen? Just because video is a very different sort of animal than typically search or display in digital. And I think a bunch of us thought, yes, it may take a while and it'll be different, but the scale and the magnitude of this change is going to require that technology again insert itself to help solve some of these problems.
Great. Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
This was great. Thanks.
Enjoyed that. We'll be back with more AW360 at Advertising Week New York.